Hello, BookTube. Well, as some of you may have seen, the Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction announced their shortlist the other day, uh, and uh, I was baffled. I still am baffled. I watched a very good video by Jennifer at Insert Literary Pun here, in which she refers to her own bewilderment. It's a baffled bewilderment, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. And in her video, she can't help but resort immediately to a patronizing tone. And it's unavoidable. I have to do the same thing. We don't agree on much, but when you're presented with a short list like this, patronization is pretty much the only club you can play. You have to immediately start talking about how, well, it's great that awards get people reading. Because what are you supposed to say about the shortlist itself? I have it here. I'll read it to you. Out of the 16 candidates that the Bailey's judges had, they picked these 6 books. First Love by Gwendolyn Riley, Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeline Tien, The Power by Naomi Alderman, Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo, The Dark Circle by Linda Grant, and The Sport of Kings by C.E. Morgan. Sorry, I'm terrible with authors. But I have read these books. In the interval between my last Bailey's video and this one, I moved heaven and earth to get the books I hadn't read. I hadn't read 4 of them, almost all 4 of which are on this list, and read them. And so I can say going into the short list that I have read all the books that were on the long list. And as a result, I simply have no cogent explanation for the shortlist. I simply don't. With the exception of the Madeline Tien's novel, Do Not Say We Have Nothing, all of the novels on the Bailey's shortlist are the worst novels from the Bailey's long list. And only one of the truly horrible novels from the Bailey's long list isn't on the Bailey's shortlist, and that is The Mare by Mary Gateskill, which leads me to believe that it would have been on the shortlist, except that the Madeline Tien has to be, because I now believe the Madeline Tien will win, and I believe that it will win for karmic reasons, rather than necessarily. I mean, it's yards and yards better than the other books on this shortlist, but there's a widespread perception that it probably was a little bit unfair that it didn't win the Booker. And I'm thinking that maybe the judges might here be thinking about that, and how it would be a terrible shame if a novel that strong went through its debut season without a major award. I don't know, maybe such thinking wasn't on their minds, but I can't imagine that the panel of judges that is in charge of the Baileys this year actually thought that 5 of these 6 books were better than some of the incredible candidates on the long list. I simply have to believe, unless they go public and contradict me, I have to believe that they had non-literary agendas for some of it, or literary agendas, but not specifically for the books in front of them. It's a perfect example of a case that I have made many times in the course of my life on how the awards shortlist and awards winners in literature would look very different if the judges had the works only, with no title and in a brown paper bag. So they knew nothing about it except the prose itself. Because anyway, like Jennifer at Insert Literary Pun here, I can certainly say it is great that awards get people reading. It is great that these authors are propelled into the spotlight. It's great that the shortlist, this is one of the first major shortlists of the year. It's great that it's getting people talking about books. All of that is wonderful. I can certainly second that. But aside from the Madeline Tien, Do Not Say We Have Nothing, I cannot in any way recommend any of the books on this shortlist. And much as I hate to say it, I know she has fans out there among you. I can't recommend her book over probably half a dozen of the books that were on the long list. So it's an odd and surreal experience for me to encounter this shortlist, and it bodes poorly for Steve and Literary Awards for 2017. About 2016, was about as low as Stephen literary awards could go, since the highest literary award in the world for literature was awarded to not only someone who doesn't read, but who can't read. I thought that was the absolute pinnacle of Trump-era absurdity for literary awards, but I might be wrong. certainly something along those lines would have to explain why. I mean, if you had asked me to go through the long list, book by book, once I'd finished reading them all, and pick 5 of the worst books, it would be these 5. So what are the odds? I'm done ranting for now, and I'll be back when the winner is announced, and we'll have a nice another talk about that. Thank you, BookTube.